Welcome back to Woman Conversations in Black and White. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Linda. And together we are having these conversations and recording them to both share information on sensitive topics across racial lines, but more than that, to encourage you as our listeners to talk across racial lines on sensitive topics with a good heart, with good ears, with an open listening ability, and see what you learn to better understand and see each other's humanity.
So we have these uncomfortable conversations on purpose, with a purpose, in order for things to get better. So tonight's topic is Linda.
All right, we saw a comment on Facebook, not by a mutual friend, but by someone who was a friend of theirs, and said, well, I don't know why we keep talking about these issues because racism has gotten so much better. And so both Bernadette and I saw that comment. Racism has gotten better. And, we all have our own little thoughts. So we decided that would make a good topic tonight. So I might start by, go ahead, Bernadette, I can tell you.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, as a white woman who did not grow up with diversity around me, I grew up with parents who valued diversity, but we were in a very white bread area of rural Kansas. And my education came from a variety of things, but not from actual contact. So as a white woman, I can say two reasons why a person today might actually say racism has gotten better. And here are the two reasons, not that they're right, but that they might be in someone's head. And one is that they're not seeing civil rights marches like there were in the 60s, which I witnessed from a distance, through the news. And they think lynchings have all ended. And they don't. And the third reason probably is they don't really want to think about there might be something they could or should be doing to change relationships with the races or systemic racism. However, Bernadette and I do not agree with the statement that racism has gotten better. So that's why we are having these regular conversations. And those are reasons why somebody might think that. If you've had one of those thoughts, we're going to talk about those tonight. So Bernadette, would you like to start with wherever you are on this?
Yes, I am at a different place than you are, as you know. I think, and the comment came from a white man. And I think when comments like that come from the dominant culture, that is a statement of arrogance, much more so than it is a statement of fact. You cannot rely on the dominant culture to be the temperature gauge for how the marginalized group has, quote unquote, gotten better. That is like a rapist saying that the woman he raped, well, she's come quite a long way. That he does not have a right to make that statement.
True.
White people cannot say for people of color that things have gotten so much better. How would they know?
Right. How would they know?
Right.
Exactly.
And so to me, those comments always come across as comments of entitlement, privilege, and arrogance. Now, you can ask a person who has been discriminated against or has been the object of acts of racism, how do you feel things are going today? And then you can get a more accurate and an appropriate gauge for where we are.
Right.
But for the dominant culture to make those statements, no, I take that as a statement of arrogance.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Whatever other things go with it, that's the overarching energy of that statement is I know, and this is what I say, and so it's so. And of course, it isn't true. But your idea is, yes, that a rapist saying, well, she's gotten a lot better, didn't really hurt her that much.
And in regard to lynchings have not stopped. The method is different, but it has not stopped. When a man gets shot with a shotgun while he's on his morning job, that is a lynching.
Right.
When a woman is shot in her home at 1 o'clock in the morning because the police have got bad information, that is a lynching. When a man is murdered and we all watch it for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that is a lynching.
Right.
And so it is not that lynchings have stopped, the methodology has changed.
Right.
And if you'll remember last summer in Georgia and in California, and they did a good job of keeping this quiet, there were 6 or 7 Black men found in various parts of those states hanging from trees.
I
Now,
saw.
yes. Now, I'm not saying that Black people don't commit suicide. Please hear me. But we do not lynch ourselves. And so lynching is still very much alive and still very much a prevalent part of our society. Now, does
Mhm.
everyone get dressed up like they did in days of old and pack a fried chicken basket and put on their Sunday church clothes and go down to the tree where they're going to do the hanging and wait and watch it together? No, but it's still happening. And we
Right.
get to see it on Facebook and Instagram and
Right.
CNN and Fox News. It is still happening.
Right. Yep. I think the word that I was using as we were starting to talk about this topic was it has um, violent racism that results in loss of life has shapeshifted. And if white people dare to say it's gotten better, no, it hasn't gotten better. It's just
Yes.
transformed, and you don't see it
Mhm.
looking like the pictures did of 75 years ago.
But I mean, there's no burning crosses. There's no people walking through the street with hoods on their heads and robes. Granted, yes, but you saw the amount of police presence at many peaceful Black Lives Matters protests.
Right.
That's what your burning cross looks like now.
Right. Right.
That's what it looks like
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. A militarized presence
Yes.
that's out of proportion to what was actually happening,
Yes.
which then in response often invites further um, conflict, I guess would be the
Right.
right word.
Yes. And then when a militarized presence was needed at the United States Capitol,
It wasn't there.
it was
Not
carte
not
blanche.
in
It was
anywhere near what
no,
was
no. You
happening.
have police officers taking pictures with them, opening barricades for them. It was come on in, boys.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
I know that's a lot.
it is a
So
lot.
yeah, it is a lot. But I'm glad we're having these conversations, and I hope
I
other
am too.
people are too. Because no, lynchings haven't left us; they're still here. It just looks different. And I like how you said shapeshifted because that's exactly what it has done. It is
Right.
just shapeshifted. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
One of the books I've been reading, I forget which one, said that systemic embedded systems such as racism,
Mhm.
when legislation happens like the Civil Rights Act
Mhm.
or the Emancipation Proclamation,
Mhm.
when something big happens to end this injustice, a system that's so big and so embedded and so many white people invested in it continuing,
Mhm.
it's very likely to shapeshift. And in our country, that's exactly what it has done. Like after the, I don't know my history well enough to say this, so help me if I get it wrong.
Okay.
But after Lincoln did the Emancipation Proclamation and the
Mhm.
slaves were freed,
Mhm.
incarceration, massive incarceration. In other words,
Yes.
they it became legal to hire convicts to do practically slave labor. I mean, literally
Convict leasing. Yeah, it's just
convict
convict
leasing
leasing. Uh-huh.
shortly after the Civil War. And then it also was legal, or they got away with it, to arrest people on minor charges, like you're loitering, so we're going to arrest you. And then the
Mhm.
next thing you know, he's a convict
Mhm.
working perhaps on the same plantation where he worked before.
Mhm.
There was a lot of that that went around, a lot of that. So convict
It
and convict leasing and low income labor from convicts who may or may not have been arrested legitimately. And even if they were, there's questions about whether that is just or ethical, but it's done.
Well, it was a part of the deal. And for those who haven't, if you haven't seen 13th on Netflix by Ava DuVernay, watch that today. But the clause within the 13th Amendment for them to vote for was that the slaves were free. However, if they had been convicted of anything, essentially, then they could be mass incarcerated and they could do work, unpaid labor on behalf of that. So it is not like Lincoln had some grand noble vision that the slaves should just be free altogether. There was a loophole behind that in order to keep unpaid labor going within the United States. And I think a lot of people fail to recognize that piece. Now, it wasn't shortly after Emancipation Proclamation. A few people did actually get the 40 acres and a mule. But after Lincoln was assassinated, all of that land was stretched back. People were pushed off their property. Any gains that were there was removed. And that was one of the most violent, riddled periods against Black people in our nation's history. Why? Because we were no longer someone else's property. Believe it or not, being owned by someone else gave us a level of protection that no longer applied.
Oh, I see that. I
Yes,
see that.
yes, that no longer applied. And so it
Right.
was just massacres of Black people at random because they could
Mhm.
with zero repercussions. Zero repercussions.
And watching 13th is,
Mhm.
yes, that would probably be the recommendation for this episode is watch the movie 13th by Ava DuVernay. It's a
Mhm.
documentary. Bernadette, I watched it about 6 months ago, and it's
Mhm.
intense. And I remember thinking, I
Yes.
need to watch this again. But now, white women's study group that I'm in, studying racism and trying to understand more, that's our assignment for this week is to watch that again. And I think, okay, I better do that. And this time I should take some notes so that it
Yeah.
actually sticks more. It's so impactful that you just see it as an experience the first time. And so if I
Mhm.
want to get it as historical reference, then
Mhm.
I need to go back and take some notes this time, which I plan to
Yeah.
do. That
Yeah.
will
So
probably be tonight that we
yeah,
watch
because
that.
13th was the continuation of the systematic destruction of the Black family. Because when we were slaves, you could sell off our children, take the husband, and part and parcel as you could because you owned us. Now you can arrest someone and then you continue to disintegrate the Black family. That's
Right.
that's what 13th allowed to happen. And your voting rights were stripped. It was very purposive in the language in 13th.
Mhm.
It's very purposive. Mhm.
So that's the movie 13th. It's on Netflix. It may be other places too, but we know it's there.
Right. Yes.
All right. Well, that's not a problem we're going to solve tonight. Do you have anything else you want to say
No.
about has racism gotten better? And like we said,
Uh,
it's shape shifted for sure.
it has shape shifted, and I think a lot of people have tried to make light of it and make it lighthearted. We did an episode a few episodes ago. We were talking about virtual school. My daughter's a junior this year, and I kept her home this year, the entire year. She did virtual school, not because of COVID, because she knows how to wear a mask and everything else, but she did not want to be subjected to the systematic racism that is inherent in schools.
Mhm.
She said, after the summer we had, she said, I cannot do it. It had taken such a mental and emotional toll on her.
Right.
And so I don't think people think that maybe, so I think people need to recognize that some people are sheltering in place, not so much because of COVID, but because of the atmosphere.
Right.
And so recognition to that needs to be a part of the conversation. So I know that was a lot. Linda and I talk about a lot. We encourage you to talk about a lot. We look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, start talking and keep talking.
Thank you so much. We'll see
Yeah.
you again next time. All
Bye
right.
bye.
Bye.